So we need to finish up these graphs that we were looking at in class. And I know I've already done some of these, so I just want to go back and hit the parts that I have not. So we're going to start on this page 9 here. I know we already looked at that increasing, decreasing, and the domain and range. So I want to pick up with the second column here. Thinking back to our function notation, I'm just going to kind of take us back a little bit. We looked at function notation. Here we go. What's inside the parentheses is x, and what's on the outside of the parentheses is y, or sorry, on the other side of the equal sign, I should say. Inside the parentheses is x, on the other side of the equal sign is y. I'm going to keep that in mind when I work these problems. So in this problem, this is telling me x equals -6. So if I look, when x is -6, that's this point right here, y is -3. So that's my answer. It's going to give you one of the numbers, either x or y, and you have to find the other one. We can look down here at e as well. So again, x is equal to 2. I'm going to come when x is 2. When x is 2, y is 4. So that's the answer. The other way is a little bit harder to see. The good thing about these videos is you can pause them, you can rewind and rewatch them. So definitely do it as many times as you need to. I don't know what x is. I'm given y. So I'm going to go up on the y-axis at 3 and note that there are two numbers that have 3 for the y-axis. That crosses right there at the 3 when y is 3. So I can have two answers for these. I cannot have two answers for D and E. I have one answer. But for when we're finding things like F, you can have one or more answers. I can't say it's two every time, but you can have one or more. When we're solving things like D and E, you can only have one answer. All right, let me show you another one here. Now we haven't looked at page 10. We're going to look at those, and I'm going to give you some of these to try. So let's look at C and D. I'm going to do D first. This is the easy way. Inside the parentheses, that's the x. So I want to know what's going on when x is 8 there. So when x is 8, we're at this point right here, so y is -2. So that's my answer, -2. For C, I don't know what x is, so they gave me y. I want to know what's going on when y is 0. And again, you have to look all the way across your graph. Y might be 0 more than one time. Here's a chance when y is 0, and all the way over, here's another time that y is 0. So that happens when x is -3 and x is 10. Again, you could have one or more answers. 1, 2, 3, 4, might not going to be one with like 4 or 5 answers in it, but in theory, you don't always have to have two. You could have one answer or more than one answer. All right, so on page 11, here are some for you to try that use this same idea of the x and the y, and some of them are just true false. So take a second. I want you to pause the video and see if you can do A, B, and C to finish out that page. In class, I have you guys work on some while I walk around and help. So really and truly try this. Pause the video if you need to rewatch some of it, rewatch, and then try them. But don't click and continue on until you've looked at A, B, and C. All right, let's see how you did with A, B, and C. So this statement is saying when x is 0, y is 0. Let's look. Yep, there's the point 0, 0. So this is true. I know it's slightly different wording, but I want to see if you could apply that. For B, we want to find the values when y was 1, and it told me there are two values. So when y is 1, let me change colors here, that's this point and that point. So we've got those ordered pairs there. I know it's kind of weird. This is 1/3. That's 1/3, comma 1. So that's going to be when x is -2 and x is 1/3. I don't care the order that you write them in. If you have the 1/3 before the -2, it doesn't matter. But there are two values, and these are the two values. All right, let's look at this last example. I'm going to clean off my graph here. This is my x and y, so this is saying the point 1, 1/3. Let's see, if we go up to 1 on the x-axis, this is where x is 1. This is my x and my y. When x is 1, the graph isn't 1/3, it's 2.8. So this is false. I know we have this point here. That's 1/3, 1. That would be f of 1/3 equals 1, the opposite of what we were given there. So that one was a little bit tricky. Again, rewind if you need to see that written out again. Let's finish up our last part of the graphs. And I know the graphs are not super fun, so good thing is these are videos, so you can go back and rewatch, unlike if we were just in class. So a positive that came out of this. I think this is easier than the other stuff we looked at though. We want to know when the graph is greater than 0. So this means above the axis. And then this one's going to be below because it's negative. So I can think about, that's where my break is right here. These are the points where I change from going above and below. So when I start, I'm below the green line, then I'm above the green line, then I'm below the green line, and then that little piece on the end is easy to forget is above the green line again. So I'm just going to write these out in that interval notation that we were using in class on Monday. A couple things. When I'm on the green line, I'm not above or below. I'm technically just 0. I'm not positive or negative. So I'm going to be using parentheses for those. Again, because that point is technically not above or below the axis. It is on the axis. The endpoints are below, or this endpoint's above. So I will be using brackets because they are actually below. So let's see. The first one is above. So it crosses over at -3, goes all the way here to 6, and then starts becoming above again at 10, and then the whole graph, I kind of squiggled over it, stops at 11. Since that's the end point of the graph, I'm going to use that bracket. And remember, I'm going to use the U there to mean and. You don't have to use that. Below, I'm below the graph from that end point at -6 all the way to -3. Again, endpoints are in brackets because they are at that point at -6 is below. The point at -3 right here is not below. It's on the line. So it is a parenthesis. And then I'm below again from 6 all the way to 10. Notice I only use the x values. We only use the y values for the range. All right, rewatch this as many times as you need to. Definitely email me, and when we're in class, I'm happy to help you with that GCA 2 or Homework 1. You also can email me copies of those if you want me to look at them before we get to class.